for meeting with us.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Child hunger is a focal point for ConAgra Foods. Can you provide your personal thoughts on the level of success you feel has been reached thus far? And if a competitor ever approached you about fighting this cause together, would you join forces with the idea of can two rivals or enemies sort of come together for the common good?
Okay, yeah, sure. The first question about whether our level of success in fighting child hunger, I believe we've continued to make good progress. Our Child Hunger Ends Here initiative began about 4 years ago. And each year we've seen increasing awareness among our consumer base about the issue and higher engagement. We've ended up serving more meals to those who are hungry. But the issue continues to be a big one in the United States. And, we'd like to be doing even more. We're looking for opportunities maybe in more specific locations where we can drive the needle even more and engage others in our fight. So, we're making progress, but clearly the battle is not over, and we're going to stay with it and hope we can make an even bigger impact.
Fair enough. Very good.
As far as joining forces with others in our industry, that's something we're already doing.
Okay.
If you look at a program that Walmart has right now, that's a big customer of ours. It's a big customer of our competitors. And many of the folks in the food business are focused on fighting hunger. In our case, it's child hunger. Some are engaged in different elements of hunger. But Walmart has brought many of its suppliers together, including us, to try to address the issue in a bigger way. So we already are doing that. We're also going with some of these competitors and customers to explore opportunities like public-private partnerships. We've met together with USDA. We've met with the NGOs who are addressing hunger right now, like Feeding America, like Meals on Wheels, like some of the other NGOs, to see if there's a way to address this collectively in a bigger, on a bigger scale, and looking at opportunities to do things like public-private partnerships.
That was good. You definitely. I was looking at it more of a tunnel vision, but you gave me a broad view on that, so that was very helpful. Thank you very much. Number 2. If it was brought to your attention that suppliers are violating a code of ethics or acting unethically, as a leader of the company, what are your next steps, and do you still follow through with them if it means perhaps costing the firm some money?
Yes, you do.
Thumbs up on that one.
We have a very specific supplier code of conduct that we expect our suppliers to follow. It addresses ethical issues. It addresses things like animal welfare. It's no surprise to our suppliers that we have a code of conduct, and there's some expectations that they need to follow in working with us. As part of that, our supply chain organization also has a way of assessing how suppliers are doing against this code.
Okay.
So if a violation were to occur, that's absolutely something we'd look at. It would depend on the kind of violation we're talking about in terms of what specific steps would be taken.
Okay.
But we have a starting point for looking at this and a process for engaging with our suppliers who may not have followed it. And depending on what the specific issue was at the time, there'd be any number of things we might do.
All right.
If it involves losing money for the company, obviously we have this supplier code of conduct because we want our suppliers to follow it.
Yes.
And if they aren't, that's a problem. Yeah. So the answer to would we follow through if it costs the firm money? Yes.
Good.
Absolutely.
Good. Professor will be happy to hear that. Okay, moving right along. What is ConAgra Foods' approach in determining how philanthropic endeavors will be financed, and how do quarterly earnings or the overall revenues of the company affect that?
Well, we have, at ConAgra Foods, we have a foundation that's separate from our company, okay? And a lot of our corporate giving, a lot of our charitable giving is done through our foundation,
Okay.
okay? And that foundation is financed through the company, typically on an annual basis. It might be more frequent than that, but, and that foundation has a small endowment, not a huge one. But most of a lot of the charitable and philanthropic work we do is done through the foundation. And as president of the foundation, I'm a part of the decision-making process on many of the philanthropic donations that we make. We actually have a process for approval of these types of donations, and when they get to a certain dollar amount, we actually end up taking the opportunity to our board of directors and getting their input on the funding decisions. So we have a pretty clearly outlined process for following that, and it's done mostly through our foundation.
Good. Yeah, that was. You mentioned that a couple weeks back, but again, I just forgot about it, so I'm glad you brought that back up. That was very good. Thank you. And then wrapping up here, where do you see the company in regards to philanthropic involvement in 10 years? And do you see the firm evolving into a more of a leadership and facilitating type role versus other companies that may just write a check? And if yes, how do you take that on? What's the process for that undertaking?
Well, I would say we're already in a leadership position from a philanthropic standpoint. Our initiative, Child Hunger Initiative through Feeding America, is the largest of its kind. And we are doing all we can to really focus on that particular issue and drive engagement and resources to solving it. I would say that some of the things we're seeing is that I think if you look at the philanthropic community now, you're seeing different organizations that are addressing issues, making more business-like decisions, and looking for tracking results and adjusting their efforts according to results. You're seeing more NGOs kind of taking a business approach to their efforts so that they can see what kind of impact they're having. We began doing that with our strategic partners about 7 years ago, before it became kind of the norm.
Okay.
So if you look at our partners, what you see is that our expectations is, we have an expectation that the efforts that we fund and support are actually ones that they track, and we can measure how successful we've been each year. That's not something that was there before.
Sure.
So what we're trying to do is make our partners more strategic so that we can work together and address the issue in a bigger way.
Yeah.
I think as you look down the road 10 years from now, absolutely philanthropy is going to continue to play a critical role in our thinking. Our citizenship ambition is part of our strategic recipe for growth. And that's a long-term strategy, and philanthropy is part of that. So my hope is that 10 years down the road, we'll have made an even bigger difference in the child hunger arena, but also that we're viewed by our peers and others as a leader in the area of citizenship.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Again, a very visionary. That's why you're in the role that you are. As you are a visionary, you can see things far larger than what we're looking at just right in front of us. Well, that wraps it up. I mean, I think we're going to be in good shape. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No,
Appreciate you.
fantastic.